What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be working on the CTS-V. So if you caught my last video, I went to the track trying to better my best time, and I did. I ran 12:39 at like 1:16 I believe. If you didn't catch that video, I'll link it up above here, but it was a midnight drag. So on my way home, 3:30 in the morning, guess what? Armadillo pops out, can't avoid it, I hit it. So didn't mess the front of the car up, hit it on the passenger side. Didn't mess anything up, but I was hearing some dragging noises. So what that was is this piece of plastic that goes on the inner fender, the very front of it broke and was dragging the ground. So I'm going to be replacing that today. Well, while I'm doing that, I actually think I'm going to get it aligned as well. So before I get it aligned, I'm going to install some Eibach lowering springs. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take it apart, put this Eibach Pro Kit on, and so let's get started. The very first thing I'm going to do is take all these plastic panels out of the way, because we're going to have access to obviously the top of the strut. And so let's pop these plastic pieces out of the way, then we're going to lift it off the ground and get the wheels off, and then I'll show you kind of what we need to do next. So once we have the panels off up top here, they just pop right off. We're going to lift it off the ground, which I've already done, and support it with some jack stands. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wheels off. You need a 7/8 to get the front wheel off, or both the front wheels off. Once the wheel's off, if you ask 100 different people, you're going to get 100 different answers of what your next step is. But the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to loosen the 18 millimeter here, and then I'm going to take the two 13 millimeters out of the bottom of the strut. As you can see there's one on each side, and I'm going to let this come down. Once I do that, then I'm going to take the connection here off the top and the two nuts off the top, one of the last one being an 18 millimeter. And before I take that last one off, I am going to put a spring compressor on the spring itself, just to keep it from flying out. But some say you don't need to do this. This is just the method I'm going to do. So we're going to pop this 18 loose first, then those 13s on the bottom. Now, once you loosen this, it's going to want to spin, so you need a 5 millimeter to go in the center while you're getting this completely loose. Once this top one is out and those bottom two are loose, I just loosen them. They are still in place. We need to remove that piece off the top, and I'll show you that next. Once we got that done, we're going to pop this loose up top. It's just clipped on. There's a clip here that you pop off, and get that out of the way. Once the clip's out of the way, we're going to use an 18 to take this upper adapter off of the top of the strut. And it's just, there's two separate nuts. There's one, that adapter here, and then there's actually an 18 down below it. So we're going to use a deep 18 obviously to get that off. Now, once we got that adapter out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and clean this out so the socket sets properly. There's just a bunch of dirt and debris down in there. I'm just going to use a pick and my shop vac to vacuum out all that junk before we loosen this up. And then after I do that, I am going to put the strut compressor just on one side of the spring, just to kind of keep it in place while I knock that 18 up top loose. Once I have that in there holding the spring, I'm going to go ahead and loosen that 18 up top. So I'm going to use an impact for that, because sometimes the inner shaft wants to spin, so hopefully we can just hit it once and get it loose. Now, once that's loose, I'm going to go ahead and take the 13 millimeters out, and we'll get the spring out of the way. So now we have the spring out of the car, and there's a couple things that you need to take note of. This fell out on the ground. We have to put that back in, so don't lose this. There's a little black washer inside there. So these two pieces just set aside for right now, and we need to pull this apart. So we're going to take the dust shield off, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this out, the factory bump stop, and we're going to cut it in half. The kit does come with bump stops. We are not going to use those. Some people say they squeak if you don't do this. So we're going to take this guy out, cut it in half, and then we're going to completely discard the piece that goes on top of the strut here. So there's a little black piece of rubber. We're going to take that out and put it to the side. We're not going to reuse that. And then all we're going to do is just put the new spring on and put everything back together. Now, it's probably worth noting that the springs look similar. Okay, so some people can tell the front from the back, but if you can't, there is a part number on them. And the 148-001 is your front spring, and then your 141-002 is your rear spring. So like I said, the kit does come with bump stops. We are not going to be using those. So now it's time to swap this spring over. And it's a pretty simple process. Obviously, we pull that one off, pull that old rubber piece off, and put the new spring on. Now, once we got the new spring on, we need to take the dust shield off, which just pops off, and we're going to pull this factory bump stop out, and we're going to cut it in half like I talked about earlier. Once we get that cut off, we're going to reinstall it, obviously right back where it came from, and we're ready to put this back on top. I am going to reuse the dust shield. Some people say that you don't have to, some people don't, but I don't know. To me, it just keeps dirt and dust and debris out of the strut, so I'm going to reuse it. So when we're putting this top piece back together, you know, I said this fell out. It actually sets in with the black washer up top. Okay, so this clicks into place just like that. And then there's a tapered end. So the smooth side goes up. So the taper points down. And the taper's on the inside, but that's how you need to reassemble it. We're then gonna put this back on the strut itself and put it back in the car. Now, once we have the strut into place, I'm going to go ahead and thread the 13 millimeters down to the bottom, and then we'll tighten up that 18 up top. Once we have those bottom ones just snugged up, they're not completely tight, we're going to go ahead and put the 18 back up top here. You know, the best way to tighten this really is once you have it on the ground. So I'm going to get this pretty snug, and then I will torque it once there is weight on the car. The last thing I'm going to do is it's a good time to check your ball joints. So this one has a ton of grab, so we're good. If it's really loose, you might think about replacing your ball joints, but other than that, we're going to move this back into place, put the 18 back on here, and tighten it up, and I'll give you guys all the torque speeds. So this top nut that we took off, the 18 millimeter, that's going to get torqued to 44 foot-pounds. And then the bottom two 13s that we took out, the one on both sides of the bottom of the strut here, sorry, it's hard to see, those get torqued to 18 foot-pounds. So once we do that, we're ready to put the wheel back on, and then like I said, we'll go to the top and tighten that one last. Set this thing down and tighten up that top strut bolt, I wanted to show you guys the difference between the new panel from hitting the armadillo and the old panel, so you can see this flip down and drug on the ground. So out with the old and in with the new. So we're gonna get this thing down on the ground, tighten that top bolt, and then we're gonna move on to the back. Now that it's back on the ground, we need to torque these. Once you do that, then you can go ahead and thread your adapter back on and put your clips back together. And we're done with the front and moving on to the back. Once we get the back off the ground, supported with jack stands, we're ready to take this wheel off on both sides and get started on the back. Once the wheel's off, the first thing we're going to remove is the sway bar end link, which is an 18 millimeter. You're going to need your 5 millimeter in the center again because it's going to want to spin. I'm going to do that on both sides. Once we get that sway bar end link loose, we're going to move on to the 21 millimeter in the actual strut or the shock to the lower A-arm. So we'll take it out next. Once we get that shock loose and the lower A-arm drop down, you're going to take a pry bar and you're going to go in between the spring cup here and this bushing. And so what it's going to do, it's going to pull this rubber bushing out. And we have the old spring out. So we're going to reuse this obviously on the new one, but the spring is out. And you don't need to bother taking out the bottom piece and the bottom of the spring cup here. Let me take this off the camera stand. You don't need to worry about taking that out. I am going to clean the dirt and debris out of it, but now we're ready to put the new spring back in, and that's pretty much it. Now I've cleaned this out. I have the new spring setting in here. You want to make sure that you line up the bottom. There's a spot where it sets, and you can see that when you take it apart. Then you can put your top piece back on. Same thing, we're going to realign it. Now I will say that there is a push pin that goes in the center of this. If you want to reinstall it, you can. Mine obviously came out when I was prying against it, and you can sneak up through the spring once you get this into place, so you're not trying to put this in first. It really makes it kind of cumbersome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it in, and then I'm going to sneak the push pin in afterwards. So once the spring's in place, let's get some light up here. Once that spring's in place, I'm going to use a jack to lift up on the lower A-arm, and so we can get the shock bolt back into place. So try to guide the shock into place as you're lifting it up. Line up the bolt. We're going to put the bolt back in. So once you get that bolt in, you need to torque it to 111 foot-pounds, and we need to hook back up our sway bar, which we took loose, and that gets torqued to 92 foot-pounds. And then we'll be ready to put the wheels back on, and I'm going to go around and torque all the wheels to 140 foot-pounds. That's what the factory spec calls for. The only downside to the back here, guys, is I found out that one of my shocks on the other side is leaking. So if you have any kind of oil down below, it's time to replace the shock. So that will probably be in another video where I'm going to replace that. I'm going to go ahead and put this together, get it back on the ground, and we'll be all finished up. I'll give you a look around it. So here it is behind me, all finished up. If you notice, I'm a little bit more shaven than when I started this project, and I'm wearing different clothes. That's because it's about a week later. I wanted to give it a little bit of time to settle before I showed you guys, because when I first set it down, the back was at about 1/4 inch, the front was about 1/2 inch. Now, after driving it about 100 miles, the front's at 3/4 of an inch down, the back's about 1/2 inch down, and the kit says it's going to be 1 inch and about 3/4 of an inch in the back. So I still think it's going to settle some more, and I haven't got the car aligned yet because I wanted to let it completely settle out before I got it aligned. And like I said in the video, this shock back here is leaking, so I am going to have to replace it, and they are stupid expensive, but I am going to show you guys the video when I do that. So hopefully, guys, you like the look of it. If you do, please hit the comments down below. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you guys have another idea for another project. Of course, there's a car coming by. Every time I film a video, there's a loud car that drives by. I live in a town where I don't think people believe in mufflers. Anyway, if you like this video, smash that thumbs up button. Go down and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon. That way you're notified every time we drop a new video. And stay tuned to see what we do next.